Okay, I guess it started. Right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night to all of you from around the world. Although I believe there's a high concentration of people from Singapore, so good evening to all of you. And I'm pleased, alhamdulillah, today to be here with our two esteemed panelists, alhamdulillah. And we have another gentleman joining us pretty soon. But we'll start first so as to not keep all of you waiting. I'll introduce myself briefly. My name is Umar Munshi. I'm the Group Managing Director and co-founder of Ethis. So I'm essentially the host, one of the hosts of this entire event, which is organized together with IF and SG. And today we have with us Brother Aziz Zainuddin and Brother Abdul Qadir. My introduction of them probably won't do them justice, so I'll leave it to them to introduce themselves very quickly, more on their background maybe, before whatever they're doing now, which we will talk about in more detail, a little bit on your background, your history, and touch on what we're doing as well before we deep dive. But Aziz, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello everyone. So my name is Aziz. I've been, as in my specialty is basically the Web3 crypto blockchain space. I've been in the space for the past 5-6 years. I actually graduated in Islamic finance in the International Islamic University of Malaysia. Then I just charted a path towards this new industry. Built my way up as in founded and sold popular as in crypto media outfit. And then I became the chief product officer of Facet, one of the regulated exchanges in the Middle East. And now, after 3 or 4 years, I've decided to sort of, create my own DeFi protocol, which is right now backed by several prominent individuals in the crypto VC space, as well as we are backed by a layer 1 blockchain right now. So yeah, just a quick introduction.
All right, thank you, Aziz. And we have Brother Ibrahim here. Alhamdulillah. Assalamualaikum, Ibrahim. Good to have you here.
Walaikum salam, guys.
Yeah, how are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
We will come to you in a short while. We're just doing introductions. We just started. But Abdul Qadir, go ahead.
Yes, so my name is Abdul Qadir Halak. I'm Lebanese and I come from a banking background. I used to work in private banking before that. And I've had interest in finance, since I was very young. So I studied in university banking and finance. I went into banking, and three years ago, actually, I joined Sarwa in UAE, and we're the first robo advisor in the Middle Eastern region. We have multiple offerings when it comes to our investments, and one of them, and the most prominent one, and the most international one, is actually our investment portfolios in halal Islamic investments, basically. And we've recently launched Sarwa Trade. So I take care of all of our clients when it comes to their personal investments. So on the advisory level, basically. And that's my current role here at Sarwa.
All right, brilliant. Alhamdulillah. Brother Ibrahim, go ahead. Just a quick introduction about yourself, your background, and a little bit about IFG. Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. So firstly, I think it should be clear who is the least technically savvy of the panelists by my late arrival. So my apologies for that. My name's Ibrahim. I'm the co-founder of a company called Islamic Finance Guru. We're an Islamic finance platform where we allow Muslims to educate themselves about halal investing and personal finance, and then also, where you can actually go ahead and make investments. And my background is I studied PP at Oxford, and then I did a master's in Islamic finance. I started my Alim course, and then I spent a number of years in corporate law, doing various different things in private equity and venture capital, funds formation. And then just before the lockdown, we decided to go full-time on IFG, so perfectly timed. And here we are, alhamdulillah.
All right, alhamdulillah. Thank you very much. Since we're all doing introductions, I'll also introduce myself again. My background is very straightforward. I'm an entrepreneur for the past 20 years. And about 8 out of those 20 years has been, starting up and running Ethis. So alhamdulillah. Okay, so we'll jump into, we have some questions prepared. And today the topic, just to recap and to repeat, available platforms for retail investors, right? Retail investors basically means for anyone, for everyone. And we're going to give some insights on what platforms are available, what's unique or special about these platforms. The different platforms that we'll be talking about today are, fairly diverse, coming from a different kind of approach or concept. We'll start with Brother Ibrahim. It's interesting because when I first saw IRG, I think about 2-3 years ago, when I first started to notice you guys, and later on we reached out to each other. The main thing that first caught my eye was the listing or some kind of comparison engine for various different halal investment opportunities, and later on Ethis as well was included there. So today I think he has evolved into something bigger. So maybe we could start off with that, and you could share a little bit about this comparison app, or can we directly invest through the app and so on. But at the same time, also maybe you can also share with us: is it still, in your view, very limited, or are the options really quite sufficient in that sense? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess if you take a step back, Omar, and you think about what are the problems that Muslims have when it comes to halal investing, full stop. And I think they are probably threefold. The first is that, like Muslims and non-Muslims, investing is complicated business, right? So you need to, figure out what's going on. And then you also need to have that additional, what's halal or not for Muslims. So there's this kind of education piece. The second piece is, okay, now that we're educated, what are the options, and, where can I find them, and, and comparing those. And then the third aspect is, making sure that there are actually Sharia compliant versions of what you would see in the mainstream, and perhaps even other things that you might not see in the mainstream. And so we try to solve this in the first instance by a lot of education, and you've seen our comparison engine. And latterly, what we've done is we've launched an app or a web platform, whatever you want to call it, called IFG Wealth, where you can also start comparing investments, but then also tracking those investments and your net worth as a whole, and then starting to generate interesting insights from that. And then very shortly, inshallah, in the coming months, we want to start launching our own in-house funds, our own alternative investment funds, starting with the VC side of things, but then also branching into other kind of alternative investments, such as, let's say, fixed income, or real estate and various other things like that. So that's kind of how I think about it. And I do agree with you that I think that there is still, we're not on par yet with the mainstream world when it comes to like just the flavors of investment that we can get. So there's definitely work to be done on that front still.
All right, thank you. Could you add on, how Singapore investors can get involved? Is there a difference between Singapore investors and UK investors on your platform?
Singapore investors can get involved, and I think the only people that we would have trouble with would be, potentially people from, difficult countries like North Korea, for example, or, perhaps Russia right now. But in most other countries, especially where they come and find us, we don't really have any issues.
All right, thank you. Okay, so that's a comparison of various kinds of investments and also VC investment. We will jump to something more, I wouldn't say trending now because it's going down, isn't it, Aziz? But yeah, crypto is always a hot topic. So Aziz, please share with us, right, a little bit about your history. I know you started off with a Master the Crypto website, and then you sold that, I believe. And later on, you evolved, your journey evolved quite a bit. As you mentioned, you went to work for a DeFi company, and now you have your own DeFi platform, right, or protocol. But I think for the investors here, it's not so much on the business side, it's more on the investment side. So maybe you can share with us how your own view or perspective of crypto investing or investing in this space, maybe not cryptos, maybe something else in this space. Like how did that evolve over the past few years since you've been so deeply involved in it? Right? Go ahead.
All right. Great question. So basically, I've been in the space for quite a bit of time, and part of my job, previously in my previous capacity as the chief product officer of Facet, a regulated crypto exchange in the Middle East, part of what I do is basically to simplify the user experience with regards to cryptocurrency investments. So if you want to buy Bitcoin or any other coins, what's the process? It has often been shrouded with complexity, and that's what makes it quite intimidating, right? So for the past 3 years, as in just hustling on making things very easy for users, and also more importantly to liaise with governments to sort of like make because usually governments are behind the curve, and usually they need active involvement with stakeholders to sort of like make it as in palatable or even safe for users. So back in 2017, when the cryptocurrency was the craze, the primary, obviously stage one of crypto investments is holding blue chips, right? Like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the best place to get them is obviously the first step is obviously looking at centralized exchanges which are regulated, right? So you can transfer your money or using cards from your bank account to purchase cryptocurrencies, right? So that has often been the primary mode of crypto acquisition, just buying crypto and just holding it. But now, as in the advancements in crypto and blockchain and Web3 as a whole, right, has facilitated a whole universe of novel structures and mechanisms that cannot be sort of like be done in the traditional world, right? So that's where I see a lot of opportunities in terms of how basically Islamic finance 3.0, in a sense that it could open the doors to many investment opportunities and models which is basically more fair and more and it provides more empowerment to the users. Just for example, right? When you talk about DeFi, decentralized finance, you see a lot of options of yield farming. Basically, it is the same as providing liquidity in any centralized exchange like market making and then getting paid for it, right? But in the DeFi world, it's fair in a sense that there's profit distribution, right? And even going further beyond that, the DeFi world in terms of next level as in products and services, you can see as in a very important term called composability, which means DeFi apps building on top of each other, unlocking new utilities and use cases for investment opportunities. And that is a world of its own where, it's very complex, but we're working hard to sort of like as a DeFi protocol to make it very easy by abstracting the user journey.
All right, thank you, Aziz. I think I got more questions than answers, but I guess that's the way. This is something new. Myself and Aziz, we go back a long way, and I think I've shared with him. I don't really get it, and I don't really partake in it. But yeah, he can convince me today. All right, let's move on to Brother Abdul for Sarwa. Similarly to the crypto market, I think the rate right now, things have been bad in terms of traditional stock investment and so on. So yeah, is it a good time? And then how do things change in a sense with your algorithm and your platform if somebody were to start investing now, right? What's the difference when we start investing on your platform now as compared to when things are looking good?
That's a great question. And thank you very much. And thank you everyone for your answers. And when it comes to Sarwa, regardless of how the market is doing, it's what we call business as usual. When you look at any market, especially the stock market, you have over a century of growth, because at the end of the day, you're investing in productive assets. Economies around the world, they go through cycles. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. An experienced investor would know that, this is a time where I should not worry too much. I should accumulate investments. But for someone who's new, they just need to keep in mind a couple of things. And basically, they need to control what they can. And this is what we believe in. The main 4 pillars when it comes to starting is fix a plan, have a set goal in mind, basically. Check out what your risk tolerance is, both emotional and financial. And then according to those 2, you can build a portfolio. You can get an advisor to help you with it. You can do it yourself, doing your own research. And the fourth is, and one of the most important ones, is control your costs. How much is it costing you to invest that money? Because everything you can save, you can generate more gains with. And as Sarwa, our approach to investing is very passive, and we take into consideration those 4 pillars, and we build you, or any investor, a portfolio that goes along with their goals and plans. So as long as you have those, in check, your returns, all of that, it's not in our control, but long-term investing has always proved that you will make money along the way. And this is based on historical performance. So everything we do is based on that fact. Regardless of how the market's doing, the best time to start was actually yesterday. And because today the markets are down, the prices are the ones of yesterday. So it's a better time to start now, but regardless of what happens later on, always go back to your plan and your goal and stick to that, and you'll be fine.
I like that. Prices today, because it's low, is yesterday's price. Good phrase. All right. So I guess we at this point we do have a little bit more understanding of the different platforms and some of your perspectives. Rounding back to Brother Ibrahim, I think early on, we were talking about your comparison engine, and you also mentioned about the VC fund being set up. Could you elaborate a bit more on how the VC fund could, how retail investors could participate in that, or is it meant for LPs, accredited investors, or professional investors? And another follow-on question, just quickly, because you have a comparison site, which means that you list your competitors, and over here, in theory, we're all competitors as well. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So with the VC fund, it's really just a natural step, next step from our angel syndicate platform, because previously we'd been doing investments into early stage companies on a deal by deal basis, and it was now just combining all of that into a single fund vehicle. And investors can invest in this, so we may well do like a separate institutional fund, but when it comes to high net worth sophisticated retail investors, they very much can do that, and they can invest there. In terms of the future, so VC is very much the first step, and then there's a range of other vehicles, so real estate, fixed income, and other stuff like that. And the way we think about approaching that is we want to do it as a fund of funds strategy. So rather than managing each of these strategies ourselves, which we may not necessarily have expertise on, unlike the VC stuff, we would actually work with other people to invest that money, and we would provide the the choosing of the partners and interfacing with the investors. And in terms of competition, I think that there's a couple of comments on that. The first is we have such a dearth of VC in particular investment across the world that unless we are we're up into the billions, I feel like it's just not going to be enough anyway. So I feel like there's people doing great work across the world in this space, such as people such as Ethis and others in the Middle East as well, and I think there's new companies that are doing stuff in the USA. I think all of this is fantastic. We need more angel investors, because remember, 9 out of 10 times as angel investors or as VC investors, we say no to things, and a lot of the time we're wrong, right? But some of these companies still need to be funded, so you want to have a critical mass of people who are in the ecosystem to be able to say yes and get things funded. And then the other thing is, for all of the other fund vehicles that we have in mind, we'll be working with partners anyway. So it's not really, it's not really competitive in that sense. We'll ultimately be giving the money over to the various different partners that we choose. So we're quite collaborative in that sense.
All right, that's great. Yeah, allow me to add on. I think I fully agree with you. It's such a huge market that we have, our natural market of Sharia conscious investors or Muslim investors. And there's so few of us, right? I mean, most of us know each other because the community is so small. If you ask me what's available in Canada, right, I think all of us can say is, the answer, because there's so few, right? So yeah, I fully agree with you. We need a lot more competition actually, right? And I just wanted to share a story from many years ago where we just started getting some senior guys on board in Ethis. And I was very active at events talking about Islamic fintech and investment and so on. So one of them told me, Umar, you're inspiring competition. You're pushing for competition, And I said, yeah, I think it's necessary. We really do need a lot more options, right? And between the four of us here, it's differentiated. There are some similarities, but it's definitely different. Whether it's different product or different market, different country, different asset class. So yeah, I think that gets great for the public because you have a lot of options. Yeah, I mean you have more and more options, not a lot yet, more and more options. All right. I have a list of questions. The questions actually kind of jump around to different topics, so we don't really have a conversation. Maybe I will continue a little bit more in this line of discussion and then jump back to the questions, because the questions are focused on your specific area. I think more dialogue is probably interesting as well. Yeah. For Aziz, back to this topic the topic that we're talking about now, which is competition and investments and all that. In the crypto side of things, there's been, from my awareness, and maybe the participants are also aware, there have been a few different crypto projects. Some of them use or identify as Islamic, and a few of them turned out to be, not didn't work out. Basically, whether they were scams or whether they failed as projects, Wallahu alam, right? But yeah, what's your view on Islamic crypto investing? Is it a very important thing? Is there such a thing? Does it exist? Is it only about looking at the transaction component, where is there interest involved, is there riba and so on, or does the protocol need to be Sharia compliant in that sense, right? The very basic building blocks, do they need to be Sharia compliant, like end to end?
Got it. Thanks, Omar. So certainly the crypto space has been faced with a lot of negative insinuations, probably because it's volatile, and people are sort of scared. Well, what's the Sharia status of this, right? So I guess to break the ice, I think for crypto, right? Yes, it is a volatile investment. It's a volatile asset class, right? And I think users must, because here's the thing, right? Cryptocurrency in its core is decentralized. So this means that there's rarely a central point of a central entity that's sorts of it's like the government, consumer protection, right? So this passes the buck to anyone, to retail, to everyone, to be responsible for what you're trying to do or what you're trying to invest in. So this means that they have to have a heightened sense of due diligence, right? In the first place, to see what works, what's fundamental, whether the team is good, as in what's the use case. Now, from a Sharia point of view, as in, since I'm in this space, so obviously, in my opinion, as in, I think there's very little sort of arguments to say, it's basically like the stock markets, right? Some are haram, some are, as in most are halal. So with that approach of using, for example, a Sharia screener, so to say, on the traditional equities market, you can actually find very little, as in Sharia issues with cryptocurrencies, right? Yes, volatility has often been a part of the argument, but it's not really a substance for that not being Sharia compliant. Because if you look at the crypto space, right, there are a wide variety of classes, right, which is non-volatile and which has, for example, stable coins, right, where you can use stable coins, which are essentially mirror representations of fiat currencies and so on, right, where you can earn a much higher, as in yield, right, relative to, for example, your savings account. Though, I mean, in terms of risk profile, there's no FDIC, there's no insurance, but at the end of the day, as in, since it's so nascent, there's so much. What I'm very, as in, why I'm in the space, right, is basically I want to shine a light on on crypto as in this amazing technology that allows you to create really crazy amounts of innovations and mechanisms that is more fair, more decentralized, and more transparent. So with that in mind, I guess shining a light on all these various as in instruments and how you should approach them from a risk management point of view, as well as from a Sharia point of view, is vital in what I do.
Right. Let's talk about crypto for a bit with all the different panelists. Because I think, yeah, as you mentioned, there's a lot of complexity, and Sarwa as a robo advisor, I think we could probably classify your platform as a robo advisor.
Right.
Yeah, would it make sense for you to do a robo advisor for crypto investing? Is there something in the horizon?
So in our non-halal portfolios, we've added the option to add Bitcoin, at least, as an added fund. It's completely optional. People can opt in and out whenever they want, but we added that option, and we only limited it to 5% of your overall portfolio because of the volatility that comes with that kind of asset. We're still not 100% sure. We've done so much research about it, but we limited to 5%. We have a full webinar to explain why we limited to 5% on YouTube, because it's like hours of just us explaining things. But as a robo advisor, having a full portfolio of crypto is not something on the horizon. What we look into maybe is through our trading platform is adding the option of people to invest in crypto directly as well. So that's something we have on the horizon.
Right, thank you. So I guess it'll still be quite discretionary in that sense. There's no real avenue for passive investing in crypto at this point, I assume. Brother Ibrahim, what's your feel in terms of Muslims and crypto? I'm just curious because I mean you have your community. Do a lot of Muslims invest in crypto? I know there's still a lot of debate about whether it's halal or not, and we're not going to go into that today. But what's the sentiment? Is it very common? Is it popular among Muslims in your community?
My sense is that it's a very, very popular topic, and a lot of people are investing in cryptocurrencies and crypto projects. And I think that a lot more people will as well once it goes even more mainstream. So I think there's enthusiasts around investment and finance, and they're all into it now. Bar a few. And then I think this is the mainstream world, which is a bit more passive about their investment, and I don't think they're fully into it just yet. In terms of I guess my thoughts on it are that for the Muslim, our mission is we want to help the Muslim community get back to a level financial playing field, and in order for that to happen, if you look at history, there are key moments where there's a big unlock in economic kind of activity, and there's a big jump, and certain people who jump onto that wave ride their way to and kind of start leveling up quite quickly. And you see that with the internet generation. You saw that with hardware and chip manufacture with South Korea and Taiwan and places like that. And my view is that crypto and Bitcoin and blockchain technology as a whole is certainly an asset class where there's going to be, or an industry where there's going to be really interesting stuff happening. I think there's going to be a lot of junk, and right now it's early doors, so there is a lot of junk in there. But I think there's going to be some gems in here as well. So my kind of encouragement to the Muslim community would be, don't just think about it from an investment perspective, but think about it from an entrepreneurial perspective in terms of how do I actually use this technology and this software to solve real world problems. Stuff like, Aziz has decided to jump ship and do entrepreneurship using this new technology. I think that's the real value add here. We are also, like, from a fund perspective, we will probably explore some kind of crypto mining or crypto staking kind of vehicles as well in the coming months, but that's all still kind of under development at the moment.
Okay. I'm pulling back this topic to the real world, and also linking back to crypto later on, but let's talk about real world investing for a bit. Real world meaning shares or assets, not in the DeFi space, not in Web3 space, right? For VC investing, which is something that you mentioned just now. For the ordinary layman, right? I mean, I will also add on some of my thoughts on this because we do equity crowdfunding, which is basically angel investment. There needs to be typically a certain level of diversification. So when for this approach to work, for VC investing or startup tech investing to work, so how do you guys guide? Do you guys guide, or does IFG leave it to the investor to decide to what extent they want to diversify? Because we've had experiences where one investor likes one particular deal and they want to put most of their money in that one deal as opposed to spreading it out, right? So is it investor buyers beware, or do you think that that's something that you guide your investors as well?
It's a tricky one because, as you know, Omar, there's kind of regulation around investment advice as well, which we don't want to go into. I think what we say to our audience generally, and our VC investors and alternative platform investors specifically, is always diversify. It's always a great approach to take, and these are high risk, high reward, illiquid investments. So they shouldn't be the majority of your investment. They should be a relatively small fraction of it, and even within that, you should diversify as well, because investing in one startup is not going to be good enough, right? Is you need to have a pool of different startups in order for your portfolio as a whole to work. So that's kind of our encouragement to our investors. And I think with this this new fund launching, it actually helps with that, because you just invest in this fund and you already have a diversified portfolio through that. But then if you particularly like a company and you want to top up on that, then feel free to do that. But at least you're starting from a position of you're going to have at least somewhat of a diversified portfolio.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the education part, as I think all of us mentioned previously, education is very, very critical, especially in our community where in some subsets, some pockets of people maybe are not familiar yet with investing, or they're very familiar with only some kinds of investing. For Sarwa, I'm aware that you can invest through the robo-advisor or the trading app, right? What's the difference between the two in terms of how a retail investor should look at it? Right? Should we invest directly in stocks and trade, or just park the money in the robo-advisor?
That's a great question. And it's one of the most common ones since we've launched Sarwa Trade. And the approach we take and the advice we give is an approach that already exists. It's called the core satellite approach. It's basically where you should have both. It's good to have some interest in investing directly into shares, but you need to have the bulk of your investment in something that is safe, something that is planned, something that is recurrent. And let's say the split is 80-20. So 80% of your money should go into the safe long-term kind of robo-advisor portfolio. But basically, it rids you out of it removes any kind of emotions from this investment, because you don't take any of the decisions. So it's there, it's being done, it's automated, you don't have to worry about it. And 20% is, let's say the wiggle room where you can play around, invest in direct stocks. But also we want you at Sarwa, we want you to have that long-term vision as well. We want you to think, I'm investing in those companies not to have that quick kind of gain. I'm also building a portfolio on the side that grows with time. And always keeping in mind the fact that you need to rebalance between both. So if that 20% of your money in those stocks starts growing too fast, it might become a 30-70. So you need to channel those 10% out of your gains and into your long-term investments. So always keep that in mind. But our approach is what we call the core satellite, 80-20. So 80% is something that's safe and 20% to something that is more on the speculation side. And it's our approach basically.
All right, thank you. Interesting that you mentioned on the speculation side. Yeah, well, anyway, focusing on the different investment types or options. So far, I think most of what we've discussed focuses on assets or equity, right? There's crypto, investing crypto assets, VC investment, stock and ETF investments. Are there any available income-based investments that you're aware of? Any of you? That means you invest to get income, right? To share profits. Or I think for the crypto space, I'm sure there is, as I think you mentioned before. But yeah, go ahead if you want to share.
Yeah, in the crypto space, there's a lot. I mean, we're way beyond the first level, where you just buy Bitcoin or you buy blue chip tokens and you hold, right, for capital appreciation, right? Right now, as in it's a totally, as in it's just like the traditional financial markets. There's an ecosystem of what you can do with your assets, right, to make it more productive. I mean, there are a few ways for you to do that in the crypto space. One, like Brother Ibrahim said, that mining, right? Basically securing the network, the cryptocurrency network, and in return for securing the network, you get tokens as rewards, right? That's one. The second is, which is haram, is basically an equivalent to the money markets, right? In the crypto, which is by far the most popular. Because you just stake Bitcoin in the lending borrowing marketplace, earn 4 to 5% per annum, and you're earning productively, right? Which is haram, obviously, right? There's interest involved. And the last, which is also very popular, which is basically profit sharing, right? Is basically yield farming, right? Or staking your coins by providing liquidity to a decentralized exchange. Right. So, for example, imagine using your Bitcoin and Ethereum and then putting it into a DEX, right? And then you will repay the fees, the trading fees. So anyone who trades between Bitcoin and Ethereum, there's a fee involved, right, in the trade. So those who provided liquidity, right, you will get a cut of the and usually the cut is significant. On a typical trade, which is like 0.3% of every trade, right? 80% goes back to the liquidity stakers, right? So that is a very, as in sort of like democratic way where, it makes sense to bootstrap liquidity. You provide as in your underlying, tokens, and then you just earn on the back of that. And last, which is the sort of like a higher level complex one, is basically focusing on using your underlying stake tokens and then it being composed in other protocols and earning double or even triple yields on that. So that's a bit of a handful at this point of time, but that is sort of like one of the ways where the DeFi community sorts of like generates yield.
Right, thank you. Well, yeah, we need to as investors, I mean, I'm not giving financial advice, just the basic principle of diversification, investing in different kinds of instruments, as we are talking about today. So income is definitely something very interesting. And I'm going to pitch Ethis a little bit here before rounding back to our speakers. We do have more income-based or income-style investments in Indonesia specifically, where we do Islamic lending or financing, and you do short-term deals and make some profit when the deals are done through a musyarakah or joint venture, temporary joint venture, inshallah. And in Malaysia, our equity crowdfunding platform, although it's equity, meaning you're getting shares, you're getting an asset, but there are a few of our issuers or companies that actually provide dividends as well. They are typically the more traditional companies, not the tech startup kind of companies, which would mostly be focused on capital appreciation. All right, we don't have that much time, and we have questions starting to come in, but I have two last questions, one each for two gentlemen here. For Sarwa, at this point you have 5 halal funds, I believe, right? Yeah, and so what's next for Sarwa in the Islamic investment space? You have competitors, you have more competitors coming up, and so on. And I guess there is this perspective that robo-advisors are similar. How do you know what's the difference or which is better? Right? So what's next? What's coming up? Give us a preview.
That's a great question, especially when it comes to competition. It goes back to my first point of the 4 pillars. So you need to compare costs, you need to compare portfolios, what works for you and how comfortable are you with that specific platform. And this is where us as a robo-advisor, we have the human element where we get in touch with our clients, we set up meetings and we check their plan, we follow up with them all along the way. When it comes to our halal portfolios, they're for our investment committee, at least, they're one of the most complicated ones because we're always looking to update and upgrade. And we introduced Sukuk a year later because we were doing research about it. So we're always looking into that space. So far, because our approach to investing is passive, we're sticking to our current portfolio. We're also focusing on giving more on the trading side of things, giving more options to clients to invest directly themselves. So we are looking to launch some crypto on the Sarwa trade in the next couple of days, actually. But from like halal investing kind of perspective, we're always looking into different, adding funds, removing funds, updating the whole portfolio. But so far things will remain the same. We're based in the Middle East, but we can accept anyone from almost anywhere in the world except those sanctioned countries.
All right, brilliant, thank you. And for IFG, comparing to equity crowdfunding platforms, like I think recently in the UK there's Maidan. Of course, Ethis is also an equity crowdfunding platform. There's also Yildiz in the UK and others, right? So what's the difference between what you do in your Angel Syndicate compared to an equity crowdfunding platform?
Yeah, it's a great question, Omar. So I think there's a few different things, a few different asset classes, right? So let's deal with VC, venture capital first. On the VC side of things, ultimately it comes down to quality of deal flow and access to that to the deals. And historically, what we had done, we kind of started off as a crowdfunding platform of sorts, where you look to charge the startups for raising for them. And what we quickly realized was that we were alhamdulillah getting into some really competitive deals, and we were losing those deals because those guys are like, hang on, we've got more money than we need. Why should we pay you anything? So then we changed that to, I guess, the more kind of angel syndicate or institutional type approach where you just charge investors. So I think that's a really key difference for how we approach it from a philosophy perspective, and also from a choosing perspective, because for us, we need to make sure that we want to raise this fund, right? So it was really about building the track record as opposed to optimizing for just the platform. And then the other thing is, we focus much more on Europe and the USA to some extent, and MENA to some extent. So to the extent that people like Ethis, as I said, it's about quality of deal flow and really knowing your roots. And for us to be able to do effective DD on a company in Malaysia or Indonesia is frankly difficult, right? And I think that's where there's a distinction between the different players in the market. And then when it comes to alternative assets, such as, let's say, real estate or fixed income and others like that, the way we think about it is that what is currently lacking in the market is access to institutional grade investments for Muslim investors. So think in the mainstream, you've got people like Moonfair and Cadre and others like that who get small chunks of a wider institutional grade fund, and that's what we're interested in, trying to bridge the gap for the Muslim community and do it in a fund vehicle. Now, of course, if you want to do specific deals, specific property, then that's not necessarily us. So that's where you could go to other people and find that. So yeah, I'll stop there. But I think it's the bottom line is that we're keen to try and do something that's value additive rather than just kind of rinsing and repeating the same thing.
All right. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned earlier, the market is so large and there's so few players. There's definitely a lot of differentiation between the few that are here. And yeah, more options always good. So for the Singaporean investors, I mean, most of the investors or the participants here are from Singapore, from my understanding. So yeah, you can definitely explore investing in other parts of the world. I think there are a number of questions that have come up asking about investing in the different platforms. Singapore is a good market actually, although the Muslim population is not too large. It's about 800,000 people. But alhamdulillah, we a lot of us are doing quite okay, and we have funds to invest. I think for Ethis, until today, majority of our investors come from Singapore, although we are regulated in Malaysia and Indonesia. All right, last question, then we'll jump to the Q&A. Brother Aziz, if I read it correctly here, you are the co-founder of Anonymous DeFi Protocol. Is there a name or is it something that's hidden?
No, it's a hidden protocol. So basically, in
So
lieu
what is it?
of this, no, it's not a name. Basically, an anonymous DeFi protocol.
Yeah, so what is the name?
Oh no, so I've discussed this with my team. So I think in the spirit of being private, so we will continue to keep the
Disturbing you. Okay, go ahead. So any preview? What's coming up?
no, as in right now the protocol is already live. I mean in the span of 4 months we did 500 million, over 500 million in trade volume, close as in half a billion, right? And we're backed by as in the L1 that we're currently the leading DEX on, basically the layer one. Basically, Ethereum is the layer one, you know. So all these layer one blockchains with a vibrant ecosystem. So we're backed by the layer one blockchain that we're into. So that is something as a DEX, right? Because a DEX is basically a profit sharing venture. So that is something that we are focused on. And obviously down the line, we're going to expand into other. Of course, we are going to go as in we are. I mean, we need to be clear about the Sharia objectives here in a sense like all of us are Muslims in my team, and you know we cannot touch the money markets, which is a very big pool in the crypto space. So those are conscious decisions that we undertaken. But also down the line, as in I'm currently working with a prominent member in the as an Asia Pacific region. I'm pretty sure you guys would know him, but obviously right now we're in the finalization stage. What we're going to do is basically explore basically a Sharia explicit, as in basically a gateway to DeFi, right? So that is what we're currently in the process of setting up, and more information will sort of like be given once once we down the line.
All right. Okay. Fine. I will respect your the mystery the mystery that you wanna be in, which is great. And it's interesting to know that something is coming up. All right. We have quite a number of questions. Let's see. Let me start the questions. I will skip because you can get the answer by googling it. So let me focus on questions that probably we can get some unique insights from our panelists, right? Okay, I guess this is quite straightforward, and it will be interesting, right? What's your best advice? Right? So the interesting part is your best advice, your one advice that you give to Muslims who want to start investing, right? What should they do? What's your advice? So let's say let's just imagine someone 2 years into his first job, he has some extra cash, he wants to start investing, right? What should that person do? What's your advice? Okay, go ahead, feel free.
They should start now. That's the most important thing. Start as early as you can,
Right.
but by building a plan. So don't start just randomly. And just like I said before, you need to set up a plan, see what your tolerance is, and then build accordingly and stick to your plan.
Okay, thank you. Ibrahim?
I think it's a tricky one. I think my advice would be that you need to invest in your financial education, because that then unlocks everything else. Because a lot of investors sometimes they just I guess like Abdul Qadir, you were saying, they just go through things like a bit willy-nilly. But once you have that basic grounding, then you're actually set for the next 5 decades of your life, right? Because you know what you're doing. So I would say investing in financial education is really good, and you can get so much free resources out there these days. There's paid stuff as well, but that's the thing.
Aziz?
So I think risk mitigation is very important. Basically, how you create a portfolio, which is you can sort of like be comfortable with your risk profile. I think risk is something that you really have to sort of like double down, because different people have different risk profiles. So once you understand that, then jumping on the financial, education then becomes sort of like natural.
All right, thank you. Yeah, probably all of it's good advice, right? So you could consider doing all three. Learn, and while you learn, you can start small. You can start, actually investing. But of course, you've got to look at your risk appetite and make sure that you're only investing what you can really afford to, or what you can afford to lose. Yeah, but I think the combination of education and doing are very important, because some people get stuck with learning, and then they don't do anything. Some people do and they don't learn. So I think both should come together. I mean, part of the same question, what would be the platforms required to, what are recommended platforms for these people who want to start investing? So obviously we have a few platforms here. All are recommended, if not, you won't be here. But yeah, would you guys like to add on any other resources, or even pitch your own resources in terms of learning?
Sure, why not? So like for us, I guess it's a little bit easier because because we're a comparison engine. We regularly. I was talking to a big, well, I don't know if they're a big customer, but a customer of Sarwa's, who we've been talking to, and she discovered Sarwa through us, and we obviously we've got Ethis on our platform as well, alhamdulillah. So I guess my kind of perspective would be that you want to do two things. One is you want to understand, what does your overall portfolio look like, and then look within that in terms of the buckets. So if it's stocks and shares, what can you actually invest in? So for this client, for example, she was based in Dubai, so it made sense for her to go for something a bit more local. And then if you're going to invest in alternative assets, what kind of perfect mix would you like? Would you like it to be a bit of gold, a bit of, I don't know, crypto? Do you want to get exposure to the Far East? Do you want to get that fixed income component that Ethis offers? What is it that you would like to put together? And then you can, obviously, you can find the different options on IFG, or you can, obviously Google and find it yourself as well.
All right, thank you. And I have to say, IFG has a lot of good content. For Ethis, we try and catch up. We also have our own content, but there's a lot of good content there on IFG. For Ethis, we have a lot of articles. We do have a lot of events like this. So yeah, I think in terms of learning, there are definitely a few good platforms, and most of us have not bad SEO, so you can just search for us as well. I think there's a few questions. Maybe I can just answer directly some of the smaller ones, right? How Sharia compliant products are classified in stocks, bonds, crypto. So I think for stocks, there are various Sharia screening tools and engines that are available. Right. For crypto, I'm not too sure. Maybe Aziz can help out with that.
So I mean, crypto. There's various opinions on crypto, especially blue chips like Bitcoin, stuff like that, right? So that is something that you can look at various scholars. You can just Google, right, the status of Bitcoin according to some jurisdictions, as to some scholars or some school of thoughts. That would be the easiest way for you to look at that.
All right, thank you. Another question. How does one know if he or she is financially stable or ready to start investing? Right. I think probably we'll pass this to Brother Abdul Qadir, since you're a wealth advisor.
So before starting investing, and this is our recommendation for everyone, is set up what we call an emergency fund. So because jobs are unstable, whereas maybe we're going to a recession, we went through that whole lockdown where people lost their jobs. Having a runway of stable income, so on the side, having 3 to 9 months worth of expenses and income that you can save on the side before investing is what you need. Other than that, if you have your emergency fund ready, anything else, it can be invested. Also, just in between those two, there's all what we call bad debt. So credit cards, car loans, all of this needs to be paid out. And anything on top of that can be invested. And we also always like to stick to the rule of 50, 30, 20, where 50% of your monthly income goes to your day-to-day expenses, 30% into your lifestyle, and 20% into your savings. So that 20% is what you should be investing. If you do more, that's perfect. If you do a bit less, that's fine. But try to fix that number on a monthly basis.
All right, thank you. Maybe I can add on also, in my perspective, as long as you have money which you can afford to lose, then you should consider investing, right? Which assumes that you probably have some reserve funds and so on. Okay, thank you. there are questions about, whether crypto investments are Sharia compliant and so on. So I think there's basically a lot of different opinions out there. You can go search for them. There are different fatwas as well. Probably instead of saying whether it's haram or not, maybe since there are a few questions on this, we can spend a few minutes to talk about it. I can start, and I'll bring up the issue of speculation. And I would also disclaim that I'm not a scholar, and I think none of us here are scholars, right? So it's best if you read the opinion of scholars. But I think it goes back to the individual, in my view. If when you invest, you feel that you are basically speculating and gambling, then you're likely to be speculating, in my view, right? Because you don't know enough, you don't understand enough, you just trying your luck, which basically it's speculating. So that's my perspective. Anybody have different perspectives on this element of speculation, whether in cryptos or in stocks?
I think
Go for it.
I think speculation has often been used, but we also have to sort of like bifurcate the definitions of, or basically what entails speculation, right? If Netflix goes down 50%, right? It's extremely volatile, and suddenly does it mean that it's non-Sharia compliant? So I think when you look at, volatility is basically a function of market movements, market dynamics, right? As a price discovery. So I think, using that, it has often been used, it's too volatile and therefore it's not Sharia compliant. But we have to sort of like take it into context with traditional markets to see, hey, you know what? There are some volatile markets, but does it constitute as a basis for Sharia compliance?
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's there's a fiqh kind of discussion, which is like, is it halal or haram to invest in a thing? And then there's, your relationship to that thing, and should you invest in it in that particular way or not? And I think they are two separate questions.
All right. Yeah, there's an interesting point. So the for example, horses, right? Horses are not wrong to buy a horse, but if you buy it for racing, then it's a different story altogether. Abdul Kadir?
I agree with your point. It's the first point you made, Omar. I completely agree with you. But it always goes back to the investor. Like, it's their own decision at the end of the day. But should they or should they not? It's what they believe in as well. So they need to do their own research, and they need to go through, what they want to do, basically.
Okay.
It goes back to them.
Okay, I have one last question. I think it's not really a question from the crowd, but yeah, it's pulled up from various certain questions. I'll summarize it. And also, in my experience today, there are basically a lot of scams, right? Really, crazy amount of scams out there. And if you just search, for example, in Malaysia, Securities Commission Investor Alert List, and you will see a long list of different companies promoting investment products that on the alert list, basically, so they're likely, or there's a chance that they are scams. You'll see a lot of Islamic names, right? A lot of Islamic names. People are using Islam to scam, to cheat others. When I go to my, when I use Facebook, I'm a little bit older, I use Facebook. When I go through my feed, I see posters of my friends who are top Sharia advisors promoting investment with guaranteed returns of 20% a day. And obviously they're not part of that, right? It's a scam using their face. It happens all the time, right? So maybe the algorithm somehow send them to me, but to me it's really ubiquitous. It's everywhere, right? Scams are everywhere today. Just a month ago, I think Aziz will find this funny. My mother-in-law who came to visit me, she got a video call when unknown number. When she answered it, it was a guy wearing a Singapore police uniform with a obviously fake logo here and a Singapore police force banner behind, and speaking in a foreign accent, trying to ask her to give him money. So I mean, it's crazy, right? The way things are going right now. So how would a casual investor, not savvy investor, identify a scam? Right? Is it beyond a certain percentage of returns? It doesn't make sense. Are there other telltale signs that you could share? And this probably be the last question, then we can wrap up, and say a few last words.
The main aspect of things is how transparent are they with their offerings? Can I find all the information on the website? Do they have a licensing registration number? Is there a number I can call? Are there different people I can talk to? It's how reachable are they and how transparent are they about what they offer? And asking around, finding forums, like IFG as well. There's a million ways where you can find, online if this is a scam or not. You just have to be very diligent and doing the research needed. And Google reviews, they work like magic. Even though you might find some fake ones, you'll always find that one that tells you to avoid it's a scam. So there's a lot of ways where you can dig deep and find.
Thank you. Aziz, especially in the crypto space?
Yeah, I think as a first step of buying cryptos from a centralized exchange, right, using your bank cash, right, or money in your bank, you always need to find a localized exchange which is regulated. So go look at the regulator's website to see if they're licensed or they have a provisional license or they're listed under a specific license, as in a regulatory framework under the jurisdiction that you're in. Now, in the DeFi space, that's a wild west, but the whole philosophy of DeFi, right, where it's non-custodial. So basically, it's hard to understand, right? Non-custodial. Basically, for example, like trading on a Nasdaq, but you retain your funds. 100% ownership is on you, not on Nasdaq. When you transfer to Nasdaq or something like that. So the concept of non-custodial, as in holdings in crypto, where you just connect your own wallet and then you can trade interact. That's a very powerful thing, right? Because when you do that, when you connect to other protocols, you still retain your funds, right? So that's sort of like a mechanism which is inbuilt into DeFi, which I think is pretty cool and safe.
Thank you, Aziz. Right?
Yeah, I think it's really just echoing what particularly Abdul Qadir said. I think regulation is an important one. Not all investment products need to be regulated, but most of them do. And the ones that don't, even if they don't need to be regulated, they should have a good answer to you for why not. So that is a really telling question to ask. And then the second one is, always look at the team, the people. Are they credible in this space, in this area? And LinkedIn is your best friend on that. Dig into who are the people that work for this company, what do they do, are they they have relevant expertise, all of that stuff. I'd say is regulation and people.
All right, thank you. Well, my contribution to this would be, if it's too good to be true, typically it is. I think that's quite cliche, but it's typically quite true. I said maybe in the crypto space, sometimes there's some returns that seem to be not ordinary. But yeah, in general, if it's too good to be true, typically it isn't. Yeah. All right. Parting words. We've come to the end of this session. Time flies when we are enjoying ourselves. Parting words, everyone. Just a few lines from each of you, addressing our audience, who are all raring to start investing or invest even more if they already started. Abdul Kadir, yeah.
Yeah, I could start if you want. So going back to the first point we made in the beginning, markets are down. So let's take this opportunity to buy in at yesterday's prices. So let's do that. Let's start as early as possible, and things always, things change along the way. But the important thing is, just to start. And because if you never start, you never have a point of reference of where you are right now compared to the market. Because markets are down compared to people who have invested before, but compared to you, you need to start to know how to react, basically, and move forward.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I would say that if there is, I would encourage everyone to think of their portfolio and their money not just as theirs, but as an extension or a portion of the wider Muslim community's, money that you have been entrusted to look after, and really think about not just profit, that's obviously great, but also long-term sustainability and also impact. Try and genuinely do good with this money, because we in our investments create the world around us, and if we're not engaging our moral code with our investment, then we can't really blame the world for the way it is.
Thank you, Brother Ibrahim. Your points echo a post I put on LinkedIn this morning. Was it? Do you get it from there? No? I'm joking. Yeah, but those are good points, definitely. To add on to that, also, as Muslims, right, when we invest, of course, the money is entrusted to us, right? And secondly, what you invest in, because it's entrusted to us, the outcome of it is not only in this world but in akhirah, right? So the blessings that you want to get from your investment, to me, far outweigh the numbers in terms of direct commercial benefit, because sometimes you make a lot of money, but the money doesn't do good to you, and sometimes you make less money, but that money really brings a lot of benefit to your life. So it's all about the blessings and the barakah. Okay, last but not least, Brother Aziz.
So basically, in the sphere of crypto investment, if you're interested, right, and there's, I mean, and there's, you're sort of like held back by, for example, held back by doubts in cryptocurrency as being Sharia compliant. I would challenge you to sort of like have a look around to see, okay, if volatility is a main concern, look at as in, and if you want to hedge your risk, right, and from a Sharia point of view, you want a fully backed cryptocurrency. Have a look at stable coins. The yields that they're offering are not lending and borrowing yields, right? So basically, liquidity provisioning or DeFi yield farming yields, for stable coins. That is much, much higher than the traditional space, and you are mitigated against, financial risk. And I would, in my perspective, as well as Sharia risk. So if that is something that you guys want to dip your feet into crypto, that's a good first step.
Right, thank you, Aziz. Okay, so we've reached the end of the session, alhamdulillah. And just to echo, some of the points, I think one key point is, since you're already interested in investing, learn more and start taking action. Without taking action, you don't learn. And the good thing about a lot of platforms today, the platforms we've spoken about today, and other platforms that are available, the minimums are low. You can start without so much exposure, right? Start within what you're very comfortable with, and have the mindset that, I'm okay to lose this money as part of my learning. But as you go and you learn more and you understand more, then of course you can scale up your investments, inshallah. All right, so thank you so much, everybody. Hope we keep in touch, and all the best, inshallah. Take care, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Panelists,